Hi friends, welcome back to Booked with Juby. My name is Julie and I'm a Canadian girly who loves to yap about books. And in today's video, we are going to do my October 2025 reading wrap up. And I had a pretty good reading month this past month, except for one book, which I will let you know which one, that you should definitely stay clear of. But everything else was very, very good and I enjoyed most of my books. I did 7 physical books and 2 audiobooks this month, so I had a pretty good reading month and I can't wait to share all my thoughts and feelings with you. So with that being said, let's get to it. So for the month of October, I definitely wanted to do more vibe reads, more spooky reads, stuff that kind of gave me the, October feeling. It didn't necessarily have to be scary, but it had to give me that October vibes. So I tried to aim for books that kind of went within that category, that vibe, and I think I did pretty well. And I have some that are like not exactly scary or like spooky books, but are that October vibe, and some that were spooky books. So I did like a good little blend. And the first one I started with was Weyward by Emilia Hart. Now, I loved this book. I loved it. I love the cover. First of all, I just have to talk about the cover because I am just obsessed. I think it is absolutely stunning and kind of gave that like spooky, creepy vibe. And this one is like witchy, so they call us witches, we call ourselves Weyward. So that's sort of what kind of got me. I was like, ooh, that might be a good October read since it's witchy-ish or adjacent anyway. And I really like this one. Was a 5-star for me, and I will tell you why. First of all, this is historical fiction meets magical realism, so I already love it. Secondly, it has multiple POVs, which I love, and it also has multiple timelines, which I am a huge sucker for. So basically, this book follows 3 really strong women, and the first one is Altha, who's on trial for witchcraft in the 1600s. Then you have Violet, who's trapped in the societal expectations of World War II era, so 1940-ish. And then we also have Kate, who is now in our modern time in an abusive relationship. And she's in modern day London, and she basically starts the story off, and that's where we start finding the history of her family and the Weyward witches. This book, oh my gosh, first of all, it's beautifully written. The timelines are very interesting and give different dynamic and different perspective on these women who are all related and all had different struggles, but sort of the same struggles, and how they have to overcome each of these and how each of them intertwines into each other's lives. And I just loved it so much. The witchy vibes is really cool too. Like I said, this is magical realism, so it's just like a little sprinkled in there. It's not like straight up magic, it's just like a little bit of magic or like a hint of magic, which I think is what makes this book so interesting and so, I don't know, just so fun to read because it kind of creates a different atmosphere and a different vibe. All the women, you're just cheering them on and hoping for the best and see how they get out of each scenario. And I just loved the way that Emilia writes. It almost felt like the natural world that she created in this book was a character itself. So her writing just speaks for itself. And I actually picked up her second book, The Sirens, which I'm super excited to read because I'm definitely going to be a big fan of hers. Next up is The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. This book was so stinking good. I had the best time reading it. Now, it's not so much of a horror as it is more of like a dark, twisty thriller, but I couldn't put this down and I enjoyed the story so stinking much. Basically, this book opens up in 1975, where we are introduced to 2 siblings who have been found dead in their house, and their surviving brother Vincent is accused of murdering them. And then decades later, Vincent is now a famous horror writer, and he has his estranged daughter Violet, who's been hiding her identity, who he hires to be the ghostwriter for his next book. Except it's not going to be a horror book. It's actually something a lot more personal. He wants her to write the story of what really happened that night in 1975. And so the timelines go back and forth between the 1970s and then today's time, and you have Violet's POV, you have a few other characters' POVs. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give too much away, but you have Vincent's POV. This book was like, what's real and what's fiction? I genuinely, you can't rely on the narrators, which I love a book like that. You can't rely on what you're necessarily reading because it doesn't always make sense. And by the end of the book, I was like, whoa. So I really enjoyed this one. I rated it, I think, a 4.5 out of 5. This one is definitely a good spooky time or, you know, October read. Then I picked up That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. Now, this book is a perfect book if you are looking for a palate cleansing book. It's a fast-paced YA thriller, and I know YA might throw you off, but don't let it, because it's YA, it's a good palate cleanser. It was interesting, it was fast-paced, you kept wanting to read it. It wasn't even very long. I think it was under 300 pages, I think 280 pages, so not too bad. And you could read this so quickly, and it does such a good job of just kind of like, I don't know, I think if you were in a reading funk, it would be a really good one to pick up if you just need to kind of fast forward a little bit and get into some other books, because this one just did the trick for me. Okay, so what's this story about? Basically, you start off meeting this girl who's been unconscious on the side of the road. She gets picked up by a police officer. She doesn't remember who she is. He takes her back to the station, and then all of a sudden this man shows up claiming that this girl is his daughter Mary, and he has all the documentation to prove and pictures to prove that, hey, this is my daughter. So the police officer has no choice but to go drop her off, make sure all the documents are in line, and he's like, okay, I guess this is your dad, and that's where we start the story. So this book has two different POVs. You have Mary, the girl who doesn't remember who she is, and then you also have Drew. Now, Drew is a 16-year-old boy whose girlfriend has gone missing, and everyone thinks he is suspect number one, as we do, right? It's always the boyfriend. And him and his girlfriend had gotten a big fight that night, and she stalked off and then goes missing. So he's devastated. He doesn't know where she is. He's looking everywhere for her. He's losing his mind, and he basically is trying to figure out, where is Lola? Like, I'm not this killer that everyone thinks I am, and I need to find her. So between the two POVs, you really build this really fast-paced, quick YA thriller book that was so interesting that I just didn't want to put it down. I just wanted to know, like, what was going to happen next. So I think I rated this one a 3 out of 5, which, don't hate a 3 out of 5 books. 3 out of 5 is a great rating for a book. It means you enjoyed the book. It was a good time. Was it your favorite book ever? No, but you definitely should check it out. Okay, so of course, since it was spooky season, I decided that I finally needed to pick up a Riley Sager book. I have had him on my TBR for far too long, and I thought, well, spooky season, I've heard Riley Sager does it best, so let's go. So with that in mind, I picked Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and I picked this one because it looked spooky, and it was. So I really enjoyed it. I will say I was really interested in the beginning. I got a smidge bored in the middle part here, but the end picked up, so it ended up being the 4 out of 5 for me because it did redeem itself. I just got like a smidgy bored in the middle. I just think maybe it was like a little bit too repetitive, and I kind of was like, yeah, I get it, and I wanted it to like move a little faster, because it was a little bit more of a slow burn in the middle there, so I just was a little bored. But it did pick up. So again, 4 out of 5 for me. And I definitely will be picking up more Riley Sager. Now, this one's really cool because it basically follows this girl named Maggie, and she inherits this creepy old house from her dad. It's called Banbury House, and it's basically has been made infamous by her father, who wrote a best-selling true story memoir about this house and when they bought it years and years ago and how it was haunted, and they got basically rushed out of the house after 20 days. And Maggie doesn't believe any of it, but it's been haunting her whole life because everyone thinks she's this weird kid that can talk to ghosts because her dad said she could. And honestly, when her dad passes away and she gets this house, she's just trying to flip it. She is a house designer and contractor, and she's like, let me just flip this house real quick. I just don't want it anymore. I don't want anything to do with this house. And as she's kind of fixing it up, she's starting to learn about the house, and she's trying to figure out what actually happened at this house. Like, all the weird things that were happening in the book, they start happening to her, and she's like, this can't be true, like what's going on? And she's so skeptic of it the whole time, but she can't figure out like what's happening, and it gets scarier and scarier and scarier until it tries to drive her away. So genuinely was such a good, interesting read, and it was really, really spooky. Kind of gave like Amityville horror vibes a little bit. Definitely like some spooky parts that made me like a little bit, and I had to, watch like some cartoons before bed because I was a little scared. So if you're looking for something scary, Riley Sager definitely does the job. Okay, switching gears a little bit. I started to thriller myself out a little bit, so I decided I needed something a little lighter and fluffier, and I wanted to go with the vibe still, so I picked The Dead, get it? Romantics by Ashley Poston. I had previously listened to The 7-Year Slip by her and genuinely liked it, but this is the first time reading an Ashley Poston, and this was a fun read. Now, it isn't necessarily like October based or themed. However, it does deal with like death and ghosts and spooky cemeteries, that type of thing. So it actually is very fitting for the vibe, and I would recommend it as a spooky season romance read, which is a little funny to say and a little weird, but it does fit the bill well. I think I rated this one a 3.5 out of 5. I liked the characters. Ashley's books, I've enjoyed both of them so far, and I definitely plan on reading more. They're pretty easy to read. Again, this one was it wasn't too many pages. I think it was about 340 pages, so nothing too crazy. And like with a romance book, you can usually fly through those a little bit, so it was also a good palate cleanser if that's what you're looking for. But basically, The Dead Romantics is kind of like cozy paranormal. So rom-commy, all mixed into one. So Florence is a romance writer, a ghost writer who has totally lost her faith in love. After a bad breakup, she basically is like, I don't believe in love anymore, so how can I write about love? And she has to go to her editor and be like, hey, can I get an extension? And her new editor says no. But then he suddenly dies. So she's like, okay, great, off the hook. Now, at the same time, her father has passed away, and she has to go back home for his funeral, and she literally runs into the ghost of her editor, because guess what? Florence can talk to ghosts, and it's one of the reasons she left her hometown in the first place, because when she was 13 years old, she solved this murder because she could talk to ghosts, and nobody believed her, other than her father and her family. This book is a really clever mix of humor and grief and a little magical realism. Her writing's really heartfelt. She really pulls at the heartstrings. I remember in 7-Year Slip, I cried a little bit because she really knows how to make a girl cry. I don't think I cried in this one, even though I'm a big baby, but I did really find it touching. And there's a lot of, this book's like second chances and forgiveness and finding love again where you least expect it. I really liked it, and I definitely recommend it for spooky season, okay? It's not a spooky book, but it's spooky adjacent, so it works. Okay, let's talk about the book that I didn't like. And that is called Old Country by Matt Query and Harrison Query. And I wanted to like this book, okay? I really did. I picked it up at my local Goodwill and I thought, oh, look how spooky. That looks spooky. I can get into that. Didn't love it. I think I gave it a 2, but really it's probably less than that. I had a good concept, okay? Like if the concept was neat, it's basically you follow this couple, Harry and Sasha, who buy their dream home in the old country. They live in Colorado, and it's like, or Idaho, whatever, I don't know. They're in the mountains regardless, and basically they buy this house and they want to live a simple life. They got no neighbors around them except for this older couple down the road and then this other random guy. And this older couple basically comes to tell them there's spirits living in the valley and you have to do these rituals to spook off the spirits. That concept was cool. The execution didn't feel that way. It fell a little flat for me. It wasn't that spooky. The first one was like this light that would light up in the pond and they'd have to put a fire on. And Harry is just like adamantly not believing these guys, which like obviously I wouldn't either. Like these weirdos come over to your house and tell you like, hey, like they're spirits, and like you're like, okay, that's stupid. But they end up seeing the light, they do it, the light goes away. And then the next one is literally this like naked man that runs down the mountain at you, that's being chased by a bear, screaming for help, and that's where they lost me. I don't know. This one was 2 POVs. It was Harry and Sasha's. Another thing I didn't love, and it's not necessarily their fault, but sometimes I find it hard to write the opposite sex, and I felt like they didn't write Sasha like a girl would speak, and maybe that's just because I'm a girl and that's just how I couldn't visualize it, and genuinely didn't like the book. So I'm not gonna even talk more about it because it was just a no for me. Sorry. Okay, so for the last physical book, Frankie decided that he wanted to come and join us. If you've watched my videos before, you guys will know he's a certified mama's boy. And I don't know if you heard it in the last clip there, but he was barking a lot. He can't help himself. Like, what are we supposed to do? No, we shouldn't do that, puppy. Okay, so the last book I read, a physical book I read, is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I have another video on my channel, A Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Loved that audiobook, and I also loved this book. Now, Grady Hendrix is a campy, horror, funny, humorous writer. So you have to go into these books, like the titles are funny and it's supposed to be that way. So you got to go into these books with that mindset. Like if you go into them being like, this is weird, then you're not going to enjoy them because they are kind of like a parody. They're supposed to be funny, but also spooky at the same time, because he does do gore and some really like spooky scenes. And I genuinely loved this book. So basically this book it's like humor meets horror, okay? So we follow Louise, who goes home after her parents have died, and she has to deal with their creepy puppet-filled house with a brother that she doesn't like and who's basically a disaster. And of course, the house has other plans. So it's chaotic, it's emotional, you know, you're dealing with grief, you're dealing with relationships, you know, parental and siblings, and, you know, the love of what you'll do for family, and the puppets are so creepy in this and weird that I really was spooked out a bunch. You know, I just enjoyed it, okay? Like, it's very campy. And I didn't know I was a campy horror lover, but apparently I am. So I definitely recommend, if you're looking for something that's like funny and horror together, this one's it. Okay guys, so the 2 audiobooks I read or listened to, however you want to say it, in October. Now, they weren't scary. They're not scary and they don't go with the vibe. I just have the Libby app, and so I go with what I get. So these were the ones that came up for me, and I loved both of them so much. So let's talk about Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am a big Taylor Jenkins Reid's fan. I've listened and read both ways of her books, and I've enjoyed all of them. This one, I really enjoyed the narration because it really felt like such an experience. It's based in 1983, but it also goes back in time to, explain a little bit more history of the family's past. Basically, you're following 4 siblings. You have Nina, Jay, Hud, and Kit, and they have a very famous father, and their mother has passed away, but their father has not been in their life for years, and every single year, the Riva's children throw this huge party, and basically you're following the whole day of the party and the night of the party and the events that occur on this night, while also at the same time going back in time and learning about how the family got to this position. And you learn about their parents, how they fell in love, how their father became this famous musician, and how they got to where they were in life. And, this book has a lot of grief. It's got a lot of family tension and drama. And it's just, I don't know, it explored a very different side for me. Now, I also have 3 siblings, so there's 4 of us. So I really kind of understood that dynamic a lot. So maybe that's why it related so well to me. Because I also have a bunch of siblings, and everyone has their own life and their own desires, and like how family can like bring you together and what it means to be a family, and just how to overcome the hardship, how to overcome death and grief and all those good things, not good things, they're not good things, but all those things together as a family and overcome it. And I really loved everyone's POVs. I thought it was a really interesting story. It's also very Hollywood-esque because this is in Malibu, so we're dealing with celebrities, and I thought Taylor did a really cool job with like bringing in some outside character POVs occasionally to make it really give you the experience of the party and like what this like big party is like. It was just a great read for me. I think I rated it a 4.5 out of 5. Genuinely loved it so much. Anything that she writes, I'm going to read or listen to. And finally, the last audiobook that I listened to this month is King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. This was my first book by S.A. Cosby, and I'm definitely a fan now and will definitely be reading and listening to more. Now this one, it kind of goes with the October theme in a way, just because it does deal with like death and ashes and crematory, and it was a little spooky, but really like it was more like a drama action, if that makes sense. Basically, it also follows a family. It's got a lot of Emilia drama as well. Oh, bless you. Basically, Roman is this eldest son. He's got a middle sister, Nevaeh, and then a younger brother, Dante. He lives in Atlanta. He's like made a name for himself. He's very rich. He, comes off very flashy. He's got a big watch. He's really, he went to school for business, and he makes people a lot of money, and he has a lot of money. Well, their dad gets into this car accident, and he has to head back home. And when he heads home, he gets dragged into his brother's mess, and it's with dangerous criminals. And basically, things escalate fast from there. And all Roman is trying to do is protect his brother and his sister, and this whole book is about loyalty and family and like what we are willing to do to protect those that we love. Now, I love this book. I thought it was great. The narrator, I don't know who this man is, but my goodness, can he narrate a book? I was like, this man's voice is so soothing. I could just listen to him the rest of my life. I wish he would just read me a bedtime story every single night. Like, it was just so good. And he also really was a great narrator. He did a great job at making the different characters come to life, have different voices, and really like gave each character a personality. I think that also is the writing as well, but the combination of the two, my goodness, it was so good. Now, I only problem with this whole book is I felt so bad for Nevaeh, and I have to tell you guys this because I I need to get this out. I felt so bad for Nevaeh, this middle sister. She is just trying to live her damn life. She lives her life for everybody else. She does everything for everybody. And I just couldn't get over how poorly they treat her. And I'm just like, girl, you deserve better. So that was my only qualm with it, but really this book was so cool. It had a lot of moving parts. There's also a subplot of the fact that their mother had disappeared years ago. So you really have a lot of things all happening at the same time, and the gangsters and the violence and the drugs and the deaths. Like, it was a lot. I didn't expect it. Now, I'm also going to give you a little trigger warning. It's also a very sexual book. It deals with a lot of adult content, so like definitely for a more mature reader, but really it was a great book overall, and I think I give it a 4.5 out of 5. Okay, friends, so that is my October 2025 reading wrap up. Have you guys read any of these books, or are they on your TBR now? Please let me know in the comments, or do you have any book suggestions or audiobook suggestions for me, because I'm always looking for my next book to add to my TBR and or just get right into, because I love book suggestions. As always, I love you all so much. If you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button. It goes such a long way for me. And if you also want to shoot me a like, I'll love you forever. Happy reading, and I love you all. Bye.